session, first of all, because we want to make sure that all what we say during these 5 days gets recorded and you can go through again all the different sessions. So again, I will start with the presentation of physical verification. As we did yesterday, the main point here is to basically go through the theoretical part of the process very quickly, because we want to focus our attention into the practical and demos into the system, the practical scenarios. For the physical verification process, as you understood yesterday, it's quite important to do it well, because eventually it will have an impact into the equipment master record. This equipment master record will be eventually updated based on the PV process. And then, especially in a situation like we are doing now, like in the downsizing of missions or in the part of liquidation of missions, this physical verification process, the counting and controlling process, is of utmost importance, because that will give us a clear picture of the reality and situation of our equipment in the mission or in the entity, and based on that situation we'll have to take action in order to resolve discrepancies that were found in the field. So without further ado, I will share the presentation mode. So the first I want to cover, which is the overall objective of the session, which is to validate the accuracy of the equipment master data through the physical verification process. But we'll have a set of specific objectives and closely linked to the sequence of the different activities that we will perform into the system. First of all, we will tell you how to extract the equipment list report, how to select the proper layouts of each report, and that's quite important. I know that some of you are quite familiar on the navigation part of ECC and the reports. Some others are not so quite familiar, so we will spend a little bit of time telling you how to work a little bit with your layouts in the reports, because that will have a direct impact into the template. The template that we use in the physical verification process is closely linked to the layout of the report that they will show you how to extract. Point number 3 will be to understand how to capture the PV results against each equipment record, to document all the discrepancies in the template. This is the Excel template that we will discuss how to download, how to modify, how to upload again to the system, upload all the new results of the PV process using the template, and check how this template will affect the equipment list report. So in a nutshell, that's what we're going to do today. And which is the main enterprise role doing all these things? It's the SD8, the physical verification planner, obviously in close coordination with the SD11s or SD10s, but mostly SD11s in your entity, which are the, let's say, the property custodians and the ones who will eventually have to take action in the equipment master record in order to update, enrich, and resolve the discrepancies found in the PV process. As I said before, Brian is monitoring the chat. Please do not hesitate to drop comment, question, and we will try to address after we have gone through the theoretical part. So what's the physical verification process? Okay, and that's a slide that I really like, because in basically 5 points gives you a bit of a perspective of what this process is about. First, we will have to generate a list of physical verification, a list of the equipment that requires physical verification. Okay, and this information in the report that we will tell you how to extract will have information on the serial number, the technical identified number, this one that you see here, which is an internal serial number given by the vendor for a specific piece of equipment, the functional location, the equipment status, and the person responsible or accountable for that piece of equipment. So we have that list of equipment, and then we conduct the physical verification process. That part is done, let's say, offline. So once you have your list and you print your list of equipment, you may want to break it down into different, let's say, authorization groups or the property custodians, and they will conduct the PV process, and they will enter all those results into the spreadsheet. Details are mandatory details in the spreadsheet. You'll see it's the date, who performed the verification, and which is the discrepancy type, if any. So once we conduct the PV process, the physical verification process, we will load those results into Moya using the mass upload tool. We'll tell you how, which is the T code involved there. And those, let's say, findings will, let's say, be given to the property custodians, and they will have to resolve, review, verify all those different situations found for all those equipments under their, let's say, scope of responsibility, and they will have to make the changes in the equipment master record either individually or using a mass, let's say, an enrichment tool that will show you how to, let's say, use. We probably will not have time to go through into the session, but definitely we'll give you a link to the template and to the job aid, which tell you how to upload massively information from a large amount of equipment. And last but not least, the BI reports involved within this process will be, let's say, the last stage of the process itself, because there we can find some reports linked to the process where we can see how many pieces of equipment were not found, which ones were found, and with discrepancies, information about equipment being fixed assets, and which is the capitalization percentage of those fixed assets, especially for the ones not found. There are some KPIs involved, quite interesting, and that session it's for tomorrow. And we're leaving that very last step that you can see in the screen for tomorrow's session, where it will be mostly devoted to BI reporting for the physical verification process. So as a very high-level view, then we want to show to you which are the main roles involved. As we said before, is the 8 equipment verification planner. This person will generate well, in a way, in coordination with the authorization group, the unit, the self accountant unit, you name it, but we'll coordinate in order to create and maintain the equipment verification plan. There is a physical verification plan in all your entities and the missions. So based on that plan, he or she will generate a list of equipment based on that plan. And that's done in Umoja, as you can see. And I can annotate over here. So I think it's easier. So here she will generate that list into the system and will print that equipment list that can be handed over to each, let's say, group of inspectors, let's say, and will conduct the inspection and record findings offline, obviously. That takes time and may involve some traveling, because in the missions that we're more familiar with the missions live, there are several sites and some traveling is involved. So this is a process that may take, of course, more than 1 or 2 days. So once that physical verification physically is done, then we will have to track those results into the PV template that will show you how to download, and you will update that Excel, and then you will review and upload the PV results into the system. So basically all the findings and for each piece of equipment under, let's say, the responsibility of your entity will be uploaded into the system again. And then the SD8 will have to coordinate with the different offices or departments or self-accountant units or authorization group, depending on the casuistic and the situation of each of the entity. But we'll have to coordinate how the discrepancies will be resolved, whether it's a situation related to the location of the equipment, whether it was wrongly assigned, whether there is a wrong technical identification barcode, whether it's actually a number of different discrepancies, not only one, but a number of problem with the location, problem with the user in charge, and a problem with the master data elements that are in the equipment master record. So it's important, this coordination with the offices, because eventually that will will generate a good output of the whole process. Obviously, there's the 11, the equipment master data maintainer or local master data maintainer will coordinate with the previous, with SD8, with the previous role, and he or she will have to update the equipment master record based on the results of the physical verification process. And obviously, as David showed to you yesterday, that's done into the system, and it's a way to enrich the record after the physical verification process is done. So in a nutshell, we went through the high-level overview, the two roles involved, and then we're going to go back to the what we call the high-level process, and we'll perform a demo into the system for each of those processes, right? Because although from the system point of view it's not complex, basically we're going to use 2 T codes, 2 transactions, and 1 template. And with those 2 transactions and that template, we can finish off the process, of course, of the physical verification. But as we go to the same T code several times and we change the layout, we thought that it was important to break down the process into different pieces so you understand which is the sequence that we are following. So first, as you can see in the screen, it's to extract the equipment list. And it's the SD8, the physical verification planner. That's a typo, sorry, it's an EV, it's a PV planner. This person will use the template. We download the template, and as well, we'll extract the equipment last discrepancy list. So using the same T code, you'll see that he or she will change a little bit the settings of the report, and he or she will be able to identify which was, if any, the last discrepancy found in the last physical verification process undertaken for each of these pieces of equipment. So we'll have 2 reports, the initial list, the second list with the discrepancies. The physical verification process physically offline will have to take place, this PV process. And as I said, that takes time. And after the physical verification process is done, then the SD11, the equipment local data maintainer, will update the equipment master record based on the outputs of the physical verification process. So as you see, it doesn't seem very complicated, but as we saw in the different interactions that we had with you these past weeks, we want to, and as this is an induction training, we want to make it really simple and at least make sure that the baseline of knowledge for these processes and the rest in property management are well understood. And from there, we can build upon. So we want to make sure that everything is quite clear from the beginning. So let's start with the extraction of the equipment list. This equipment list is basically generated by one T code, IH08. As I said before, SD8 is in charge. He is in charge, he or she, of the equipment verification plan and will extract the list of items of the equipment. We'll create the equipment verification plan, we'll analyze the quantity and type of equipment, its physical location, logistics factors, as I said, travel time, because sometimes this takes time, this process of physical verification, and who is available of other colleagues who will conduct this training. Excuse me, this activity, this physical verification activity. So what we're going to do now, as you can see there, it's demo 1. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the system, and go to the to IH08 and see what's there for us. Before doing that, or as I'm doing that, I will give the floor to Brian and check whether we have any questions or any comments. Over to you, Brian.
Yes, Daniel, there have been a couple of questions, but basically they're quite simple. One is, does the list have to be printed? I mean, is it a must in terms of step? It's been replied in the chat in terms of it just makes life easier when you're performing inspection to have a piece of paper with you, but it's not a must in terms of steps when doing physical verification. Besides that, we have another question talking about roles again and responsibilities. Is the SD08 the only person who can extract this report? Now, I can't remember exactly the limitations in terms of roles if someone else can't or can. It is just the responsibility of the SD08 to extract the report, but the fact that someone else can't do it, I really can't answer that 100%. I don't know if the system will actually limit from someone extracting one report or another. Maybe the layout may not be available or so. But
Yeah,
we
that's
can
a
look
good
into that.
point. Yeah, thank you, Brian, for that. That's a good point. To the best of my knowledge, obviously, that T code is not restricted only to SD8. It's SD08 planners, because this I08 will give you an overview of all your list of equipments and pieces of equipment under the responsibility of your mission or your entity. And that list of equipment is not only used for physical verification processes, but for some other property management activities in the mission, right? So, but in any case, I did share with you yesterday the link to the Umoja user mapping role guide, I think it's called, where you can find each of the roles that we are targeting. And for each of the roles, you will have the responsibilities of those roles, which is the training that he or she will have to take in order to be granted with the role, and which are the roles that are not, that cannot be given if you already have the previous one. Okay, so please take a look at that link. If you need that link, if you overlooked that conversation in the chat, please tell me, or I can just shoot that document again after this training. But it's quite important. It is not only applicable to SD type of roles, it's applicable to all the roles in the system, and it's quite important. So let me go to the chat as well and mute all the participants, because I see some, I only see 4 people in the meeting. Here we go. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, and I see 78.
Okay, good. Good.
4 people.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna go back to the demo, and for doing that, I hope you see. Do you see the screen with the main screen of SAP? Here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run IH08, and you'll see here this is a quite, let's say, complete type of transaction, meaning that it has plenty of fields available for you to filter. At the end of the day, this is a report. So basically, this is like a prompt in BI. So you basically give the basic information you want to see in the report. And then when you click on execute, you'll see the results of those records, or the records based on your initial filtering. Obviously, if you know there is a range.
Daniel, we can't see your screen.
You can't?
No, we can't see your Umoja screen.
Brian?
We're seeing the presentation.
Okay, so sorry, I was looking for the master data roles because somebody was asking for it, and then for 1 second I disappeared. We still see your presentation. Yeah, we don't see your Umoja.
You don't see that? Okay.
You have to select it again, the new screen that has open. It happens sometimes on MS Teams that it still remains on one screen.
Okay, so now I see exactly. So I have to stop sharing and share again. Thank you, Muriel, for that. Here we go. Hopefully you'll see now screen.
Yes, yeah, it's there.
Thank you for heads up. Sorry. So as you can see, what I click is IH08. Let me go back so we make sure that everyone is following. So I type IH08, and that's the different. Those are the different fields that I can fill in order to launch my report on the equipment, display equipment. Here, if you click here on the down right corner, you can always see if you click here on transaction, here you'll see this is the T code you're using every single time. Okay, so I'm using IH08. So you can only, well, that doesn't make sense to really identify only one piece of equipment over here, because for doing that you will use IE03, which is the equipment master record. So, but if you need to select just several number of equipments, you can always include into the multiple selection feature. So remember that it's over here, right, in this multiple selection, and then you select the different pieces of equipment. But in our case, what we're going to do, because I don't want to launch a huge report of over 20,000 records, which is MONUSCO. So I will use MONUSCO as a maintenance plant. Okay, so I will have to go down all the way and select maintenance plant. And from there, I know already which is the alphanumeric code for MONUSCO, which is CD10. Okay, forgive me if I'm going quite fast selecting the different master data elements, but for the sake of time, I want to really go through all the demos. So if you have a particular question how I select or how to use the match code or how to navigate into the reporting, please do ask so offline, and then we'll try to cope with that need, but not in these sessions because we want to focus on the process. So maintenance plant will be MONUSCO. Let's say that I'm as SD8 in MONUSCO. And then I have to scroll up and identify the equipment category over here, equipment category. If I click on the match code, I have several equipment categories descriptions, even owned fleet, even lease, even own serialized. That's the category that we want to use or to filter because we want to identify the equipment already serialized after the goods received process. So there are other options there, but for the physical verification part, in terms of equipment, we select M, which is UN owned serialized. We double click, so M is there. If we want to identify only a particular authorization group list of equipment, we'll have to use this match code. It's not the case. And then I will go to the code center. Here, the code center, because I already identified the code center in MONUSCO, I think it's engineering, which is 10159. So I'm going to extract the list of equipment for this code center in MONUSCO already serialized. Okay, so obviously I have plenty of other items that I can use to filter, like a planner group, like a technical identifier document, functional location. So this is a quite complete type of report that you can use from the beginning, filtering plenty of fields. But I want to drag your attention to this, to the bottom of the report, which is the layout. That's one of the objectives of this session is to understand the layout. The layout basically it's the number of columns and the concepts that you will be you want to be shown in your report when I click here on execute. So the layout you can customize or it can be already customized for you. So you want to see which are the different possibilities of layout. You click here on the match code and we'll see here that we have already some let's say formatted type of layout. And these layouts are different from each other in a way that has different columns, different type of master data elements. They are sorted in different ways. They might be filtered. If they are filtered, you see that there is a funnel here with a check underneath it. But I did create for you, and I think that it will be good practice for you once you start doing the physical verification, because we will start using the template at the same time that we are going to launch this report. So as I said, first is the list of equipment. So I'm going to select the set2 PV template, which is the physical verification list of equipment, my initial list of equipment. This is the layout I want to use. So I click on this one, this layout, and that's gonna remain once I click on execute. If I had selected some other layout, the list of the number of columns and the number of master data elements will be shown in a different way. Okay, it's only that. If you want to create on your own a layout, we'll show you how to do that. But as a good practice, that's at least what I did. It's I knew that which are the 2 tabs that I have to fill in the template. So I adequated 2 type of layouts in order to copy and paste, as you can see later on, all the different columns in Excel from the report. So I select physical verification list of equipment, and I launch my report. You'll see, and what I wanted to show to you in the layout, this is, for example, the first column here is maintenance plant, second is equipment, third description of technical object, and so on and so forth. If I scroll to my right, okay? So that's the layout that I want to be shown in the report, and you'll know why later on. So this is the list of equipment. You see that this is the same planning plant, maintenance plant. This is the equipment master record, the number that the system is giving to our piece of equipment once we do the goods received. Obviously, there is a description of the object itself coming even from the shopping cart. And once we do the goods received, information on the user status, system status, the serial number, internal serial number of the manufacturer or the vendor, other serial numbers. If it is an asset, you'll see there is a column here with the asset number as well. The description of the material. Mostly we see here a lot of telephones, armored vehicle here, computer desktop. You see that there are some pieces of equipment with no description whatsoever, right? And no information of the material and the product ID here. So this is work of the SD11 to enrich properly all those fields, okay? So getting back to the report, this is the initial list of the equipment that we will physically verify. So in order to do so, we're going to first export this list into Excel. And how to export? It's quite easy. We go to the left top corner, list, spreadsheet. Number of key columns, we leave it at 1. We click in OK. And you'll see that we have here information already important for us. Why? Because we see here 286 lines and 17 columns in my report. But what I can see is that under 10159, which is the cost center that I had selected previously and in MONUSCO, I have 286 pieces of equipment in my report. And I want to select the table. So when I export this list, I will export it as a table rather than a pivot table. It's easier to work with and easier to copy and paste into the template. So I only click on list spreadsheet, number of key columns 1, and I know that it's going to be 286 lines with 17 columns. I want it as a table. I click in OK. It's going to be Microsoft Excel. It's OK. And this is quite important. Why? Because automatically you see that it pops up a spreadsheet. But if you can see there is a message just behind, let me scroll to my right a little bit and see what it says. It says save data in the spreadsheet. It's quite important. Why? Because this spreadsheet, I cannot start using this one and upload it into the system. I have to save it first into my own computer. That's very, very important. So because otherwise the whole T code will disappear if I don't save. So I'm gonna go to File, Save As, and I'm going to use one of my main directories, and you'll see that Citrix Receiver is giving me a warning whether I want to permit or not access from Umoja, the server, to my own VDI, to my own computer. So obviously, if I want to place a piece of information from Umoja in the server into my own equipment, I will have to permit access to the system. So I click on permit all access, and then automatically I'll see the list of network drives that I have on my own computer here in Valencia. I'm going to use one that I'm usually use when I do trainings, which is O. And I already created a folder here, Property Management Induction Training. I click on there. And I give a name to that list of initial equipment, pieces of equipment. So let me put, let's say, IH08 underscore, for example, MONUSCO. Initial list 10159, which is the code center I'm using, right? It's going to be an Excel workbook, and I click on save. Okay, now I can close this one because I will only use the file that I have saved and not this one. So let me close this and give the floor to Brian in case that we have any comment or question. Over to you, Brian.
And no, your voice had disappeared for like a second there, but that was it and nothing. Actually, the chat is like a separate training on its own. I have to say, it's very active, and you have SMEs. Kirill is there, Muriel is there, and they're very active. So thank you guys. Thank you also to the attendees for being so participative and actually some helping others, liking comments. I mean, it's the first time I see this in a while, so it's very exciting to be honest with you. Any other questions? No, I think everything's been taken care of and answered. There has been a little more discussion on the roles, but again, I think that's quite clear now. And also on the layouts, I know it's basically just you went really quickly on the actions of selecting, let's call it the official layout, to extract the list that you want to use for physical verification. But what I imagined is that there would be a question on, can you personalize layouts, correct? And I'm not sure in production or not, we usually use the training environment, but we can see that tons of our colleagues and trainees that we have in classrooms, how they personalize their layouts. Never, and I'll reiterate what Muriel was saying before, we never edit the actual official layout that is used for physical verification. You would generate your own, okay? You can base it on that one, but when you save it, you save your own version of it with your name or anything that will help you understand the layout itself. I don't know if we'll have time to even show that, but just in case, I'm throwing it out there.
Thank you a lot, Brian. Yes, that's a very good point, and I actually wrote it down because I know it's a kind of like a short stopper at some point, this layout, because you might find the list of equipment not really matching the columns in the template, and sometimes you might wonder why, and it's because of the layout. So we'll tell you how to modify and generate new layouts, as Brian was correctly saying before. Obviously, you can generate your own, but you cannot modify the ones that are already there in production. Just as a small piece of information related to layouts, I just went back to the T code, scroll all the way down, layout. Let me go to the match code.
Yes, and there you go. Can you do this slowly and clearly, because I think the whole layout thing has not synced in that well. Okay, just
okay. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so this is the T code. I click on IH08. Remember, I filled in 2-3 fields like code center, maintenance plant, and equipment category, which was M. And then I selected one layout. You see that by default comes here, set to PV template. That's the one I created previously. And I tagged this layout as defaulted every time that I perform this transaction IH08. So if I want to see how many layouts do I have available, I click on the match code and I'll see this list of layouts. As Brian was saying, the ones that has a slash, starts with a slash C4 post slash equipment must change, all those different layouts starting with slash are layouts that are not modifiable. So the ones that you see without slash are the ones that I have created my own, Daniel, okay, which is the last 3. set2 template, set PV, and set3 preview discrepancy. Okay, so if you want to change and generate another layout, we'll tell you how to do so, but there will be in a separate discussion. Okay, but I just want to underline the fact that this layout is important, especially when you generate the report and then you copy and paste the different columns, and we'll show you why in a little while.
And also important is to reiterate that these layouts are in the official job aids. So if they access the job aids, and I'm sure we'll show them know where they are if they don't know so already, the official layouts or the layouts you should use to extract this list are there as well.
Yep, exactly. So let me just go to the folder where I had saved my initial list of equipment. Remember that I had saved it in O, property management induction training. It was here, IH08 MONUSCO initial list.
Okay. You don't want to show this on screen right now, right? Because we still have the ECC screen.
Sorry, yes, it happens when I change the screen. Thank you for that. So I have to stop sharing and sharing again. All right, here we go. Property management induction training. IH08 MONUSCO initial list. So I double click in the Excel file.
So I'm going to act like I just joined this session, right? And I'm seeing your Excel here. What are you doing now again? Just a quick review. You're selecting this Excel because you extracted it from ECC?
Exactly. What I did is I extracted this Excel from ECC, and it has the same number of columns that the initial report, maintenance plant, equipment, description. It's the same information. Do you see the Excel over there? No? Okay. The icon, but things like, I don't know, because I'm changing from.
I think you can try dragging the ECC screen into the red, say, frame that MS Teams has, and maybe we can see it without you having to switch screens all the time.
Yeah, I think. So share again. So this is the one I want to show. Yeah, makes it when, especially Teams, when you're switching different applications, you have to really be careful on because you have to stop sharing and then share again. I don't know another way. Sorry for that, guy. So this is the list of equipment that I had extracted, and I put a name on it because I had saved it. IH08 MONUSCO initial list. And this is the same information that I could see in my report in ECC. Okay, so it's already there. So remember, and I'm gonna go back to the presentation, and I'll see how I can just again share. Okay, so let me go back to because I want to download the template. All right, and I want to show you where you can find the template. So remember that in the job aids, in the official job aid, Umoja job aid webpage, you'll have plenty of information, but you have even information about all different business processes, but the templates that you can use for performing the transactions. And in this case, the template is placed within the service delivery processes, the physical verification upload template. You see there this thing? I click over there. And then I'll see, I think it's over there. I can even see. There is a link here where I can just download the templates that I'm going to use. I'm going to match these templates with the list of equipments that I have extracted in Excel. So let me click. on the template, open the template, and hopefully I will not have to stop sharing and share again. Okay, so I guess that again, I have to, let me just select the template. Here we go. Okay, so this is the template that I had downloaded from Umoja. Okay, you see the screen the same, right? Okay, good. So obviously, when you download the template, is blank without any information whatsoever. Okay, so and automatically comes all the way on the right, scroll on the right. So we have to scroll all the way to the left to see the number of columns. And you'll see that starts with maintenance plant, equipment, description, function location. And it comes by default in the second tab, which is PV template. If I go to the first tab, which are instructions, there I'll have information on how to use the template, on what to find in each of the tabs. For the sake of time and in order to make simple this process, and because you guys do not have, in general terms, inventory and warehouse, we're going to focus only on the PV template on the tab number 2, and then tab number 3, which is previous discrepancy results. These are the two tabs that we're going to use in this session. Okay, so getting back to the PV template, that's the place where I'm going to copy and paste my initial list of equipment from MONUSCO. Okay, so I'm going to go to that list. I'm going to select that list, and let me see, where is it? Okay, I think it's over here. It's IH08 MONUSCO. Again, I have to stop sharing. Share again. Sorry for that. But okay, so yeah, IH08. So that's the list that I have extracted previously. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole file. So I click Control A on my keyboard, Control A, and the system understands that I want to select all the different results in my Excel, which goes all the way to 287 rows. But because I have a header, right? Remember that I had initially 286 records. I'm going to copy the list of results I had extracted with IH08, and I'm going to copy into the template. So let me go to the template. Bear with me a second. I'm going to go to the template over here. That's my template, and I'm going to paste in the left corner the results from my Excel. You'll see. So I wanted to, on purpose, copy the header of the Excel, so you see that it matches with the template header. So maintenance plant is the same, equipment is the same, description, function location, description of the function location, user status, system status, you see, is the same. Okay, and it goes all the way up until storage location. So I already checked that the layout that I selected in my report, it's the same that the layout that stays in the template in the second tab, which is PV template. So now that I had checked that everything is correct, let me just delete the row of the header. And I see that all the records now are matching every single column in my template. Okay. At the end of the day, what I did is basically a copy and paste from my Excel extracted from the system into a template. But I wanted to make sure that everything falls into the right place. Okay. So that's what I did. Obviously, if I scroll to my right, I see some blank cells related to the results of my physical verification that will be filled in later. Okay, I want to stop now and give the floor to Brian in case that there is any comment or something you want me to repeat in case there are requests in the chat. Over to you.
Yes, I was running through the job aids right now because I do see somehow I see there's a bit of confusion between the layout that was shown in the demo you're showing, that you're repeating that it's personalized so that it fits within the PV template, but it's not the one available in production. Okay, in production there is the official one, the one that is in the job aid that I'm attaching to the that I'm copying into the chat right now. Okay, so we have a list of job aids under the service delivery section, which I'm going to send you the link to this, where you'll find the job aids for physical verification, equipment mass change, and so on, where you will see the actual layout that you have to select in the T code. And even Daniel could show you that one again. But again, remember that the ZZPVM, I don't remember exactly the acronym, but yeah, ZZPV template that Daniel was showing is one that he personalized because he removed one column, right, so that it would fit perfectly into these upload form that he's pasting it into right now. That's why, and I think that's the confusion is there. The name of that template, the name of that layout, sorry, versus the one they should be seeing in production.
Thank you, Brian, for highlighting that point. It's quite important. It is only because we are working in the training environment, which is not a perfect copy of production. So that's why I wanted to accommodate a template that will work within the training, a layout that we will work with the template in the training environment. But obviously, you will have already the layout available in production that fits the template itself. So then I'm going to go back. Is there any more comments or are there any more comments before I resume?
Yes, one suggestion, which I'm sure you were going to work on as well. You're just showing the Excel now, right? You're just pasting the extracted list into this Excel now. But students are eager to see that if you can bring some changes in the Excel sheet and do it again to see the discrepancies. If I'm understanding correctly, this is what's coming. And eventually, Daniel is going to perform some changes and then upload the changes into ECC. But right now, he's only showing you how to paste the extracted list into this Excel. That's the step that we're at right now.
Thank you. And that's why I want to go back to the presentation. I think I already found a way to move as you said, the screens from one place to another, so we don't lose the time to stop sharing and sharing again. So that's what I did initially. I extract the equipment list and I used a little bit of the template where I did download the template and then I filled in the first tab. Okay. And this is what I went before then. I have to extract another equipment list. First of one is the list of report with equipment list report IH08, which will extract the equipment list report and will filter all, and we will have to filter all the records by UN owned serialized. That's why we selected category M, UN serialized. And then if we know, we could filter out equipment in transit and equipment inactive, okay, from that list. But that's not mandatory because the template itself will identify whether those pieces of equipment, the ones that are in transit or the ones that are inactive, will eventually have to be uploaded within the template. So as long as we download the first list of reports, it's what we just did, it's okay. Now what we're going to do is to go again to IH08, the same T code, and we're going to extract the last discrepancy report. And we're going to see the same list of equipments, but with extended information with the discrepancies found, if any, in the last PV process. So now we're in the second report using the same T code, but we're going to see the discrepancies found in the last PV process. I hope it's clear. So what I'm going to do now, it's going to go to the system again. And let me see here. Okay. All right. And now is it okay? Now you see ECC? No? Okay. So let me just stop sharing and sharing again. So, okay, display equipment should be there.
I'm sure you'll have a break later on, right? So during the break, maybe we can check and see what's going on with that, because usually you should just drag and drop into the frame.
Okay, so now before we do the break, what we're going to do is we're going to extract the same report, but with information on the discrepancies found in the last PV process. So basically it's the same T code, IH08. The equipment category is M. I'm just reminded you the maintenance plant was MONUSCO CD10 from my co-center, okay, 10159, okay, and then I'm going to select here two extra fields, which is in classification. I'm going to put class type 2002, which is a equipment class. And in class, I'm going to select set PV, which is in the match code. If I click in, okay, it's the physical verification, let's say class number that the system understands. So basically, the only difference between the previous input in the transaction and the current input in the transaction, IH08, it's this class type 002 set PV. Basically, I'm going to ask the system, please tell me which are the discrepancies found in the last PV activity done from the same list of equipment. And for doing so, I'm going to select my layout related to previous discrepancy report. Again, that's the one that I had created because of the training environment. Okay, so I'm going to select this set 3. That's the one I had created. Okay, set 3, previous discrepancy report. That's the layout I'm selecting. The same maintenance plant, and I inputted two elements, one's related to the class type 002 and the class which is set PV. And then I'm going to run the report. You'll see that the difference, you see that the first column in the previous report was maintenance plant, wasn't it? Now it's equipment, because what I did is I changed the layout to have the first column as equipment. And then the rest of the columns are the same, but I don't see any information related to the discrepancy, how to see the discrepancy for each of these pieces of equipment. So we'll have to go to settings, in the top menu, settings, show height classification. And once we click on show height classification, you see the report expanded a little bit on my right side. So I'm scrolling to my right, and you'll see here now important information related to the verification dates. Previously, before I had clicked in settings and show classification, I did not see these columns. Now that I had clicked, I see these, let's say, hidden columns that were not there before. Verification date, who verified that piece of equipment, the discrepancy type, and information on whether the discrepancies has is change in user, change in location, in status, in manufacturer serial number, in the barcode, authorization group, or any other comment. So this information now, it's available in my report because I click on settings, show classifications. And before going to the break, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to export that list into Excel again, spreadsheet, as a table in Excel. And regardless what pops up there, instead of working with this template, what I do is I go to File and I save it in my computer, Save As. I'm going to use the same file, Property Management Induction Training. Remember that the first list I had created was the initial list, okay? I'm going to put the same name, but instead of initial list, I'm going to put priv underscore discrepancy. Okay, so this is my the second extract that I have done using the same T code, but now with the discrepancies found in the last PV process. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to close. And then we're going to go for a break. And after the break, what we're going to do is we're going to use the template. We're going to fill in information related to the previous discrepancy reports that I just extracted. And then we'll see how to work with the template and then doing the upload into the system. So do we have any comment before we go for a break? 5 minutes?
No comment. I just shared with everyone listening and in the chat the section in the job aids link where you can find the actual job aids for physical verification and equipment mass change. So if you want during the break, if you want to go through maybe the physical verification job aid, take a look at the template and so on, the link is there and the screenshot of where to find those job aids is in the chat as well. Besides that, nothing to add.
Thank you, Brian. So we'll see. Can you put in the chat 5 minutes break? So just in case someone just missed the audio. So we'll see you we'll hear each other in 5 minutes, and then we will resume with the session. Thank you. So hello everyone. I am back on duty. Thank you for your patience. It was a little bit more than expected, but Ryan and myself, we found out what the problem was. So now I'm sharing my desktop, and then because I'm as you can see, I'm moving from my presentation to the system, to the template, to my VDI. So you're basically using different, let's say, applications, and only one screen. It's let's say shared at a time. So what we did is to share one main screen, and we're dragging as we need the different screens on the different applications. So again, thank you for your patience. And before going into the system again, I just want to do a bit of a recap of what we did this past hour. Remember what we did initially is to extract the equipment list using IH08. Okay, then we saved that list. We extracted into Excel. We saved that list in our computer. Then we went to the Mojo page. We downloaded the template blanked already, and I copied all the equipment list in Excel into my template. Okay, that's the only thing I did. Okay, so my template now in the second tab is already filled in with all the equipment in my, let's say, mission in MONUSCO for one particular coast center. Then I went to the same T code, IH08, and I clicked instead of and I hopefully you'll see the screen right now. Yes. So what I did is I use IH08, and I, besides my mission, the Ghost Center, and the M category, I inputted class type. It was ZVPP class type 02, and then I put the layout related to the template. I got my list of equipment. I went to settings, click on show height classification, settings, show classification. And there I have extra columns related to the last verification process done for each of the equipment master records generated in my mission. Okay, now there I have extra columns related to who verified, which is the discrepancy type, and whether there is change in user, change in location, and change in status. And that will have to be part of the template that I'm going to do now. So now I created the Excel, extracted the Excel with the extra columns here for the previous discrepancy results, and then I'm going to copy those results in my template. So that's where we left it. So let me just minimize this, and I'm gonna go back to the list of equipment with my previous discrepancy. Okay, that's the one I left. So it's two extracts in Excel that I did. First, the initial list. Second, the same list with the extra columns on the previous discrepancy results. So let me double click and open that one. Okay. So that's the one I want. You see MONUSCO previous discrepancy 10159. Okay, so that's the list of equipment, the same list of equipments, but if I scroll to my right, I'll see information on verification date, verified by, and discrepancy type. So what I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to copy all these records. First of all, I'm selecting all the list of records, you see. I'm going to click on Control-C, copy, and I'm gonna go back to my template. And instead of going to the second sheet, which is PV template, I'm going to go to the third sheet, previous discrepancy results, which is obviously it's blanked. Scroll to my left. These records I'm going to remove, and then I'm going to, you see equipment is the first column here. It's not maintenance planned. So I'm going to, oh, sorry, I lost the equipment. So let me just copy. I'm going to paste it. I'm now in the computer, in the template. So you'll see I just copied again the header. So you see that matches one by one what I had extracted from the system and what it's shown in the template. So it's equipment, description, function location, description of the function location, the manufacturer serial number, the verification date, you see, verification date matches, who verified, the discrepancy type. So everything matches. So I'm pretty sure that it's properly filled in. So I'm going to remove the header that I had pasted. And I have already filled in with all the information my list of equipment with the previous discrepancy results. So we actually have not gone through the physical verification process per se yet. Okay, what we did as an SD8, it's extracting list of equipment and extracting the same list of equipment with the last discrepancy results. So I'm going to go back in the same template to the previous sheet, PV template, and you see that automatically the previous physical verification result is already populated from the sheet number 3, previous discrepancy results. So now in the second sheet, PV template, I have information on my list, description, serial number, equipment, user status, so on and so forth. And then I have here in these 2 yellowish background columns, verification date and discrepancy type here. So I have information on what happened in the last physical verification activity to each of these pieces of equipment. Now that we are going to perform, that we're going to conduct the physical verification process, I will scroll to my right in the template, and I will be able to fill in with my findings, with my current findings for each of these pieces of equipment. So I hope it's clear, and I want Brian, is it any comment or any question before I move on?
No, nothing. Just an attendee who mentioned they had missed the first part of the training. So again, a reminder, we're recording the session. We'll share it with everyone once we're done, just like the materials themselves. But it is true that it's important to see the demo. The first part of the session, we basically just extracted data from ECC that we pasted into this Excel that Daniel is explaining now. And the second half is going to be to what Daniel is explaining right now. So basically, if anyone has missed the first half, what you have missed is how to access ECC, the T code to access ECC, extract the physical verification template, use the correct layout, and paste it into the Excel, okay? But nonetheless, we're recording the session.
Thank you, Brian. So now we're going to conduct the physical verification, okay? And for doing that, I'm going to go back to the presentation. So we'll see the different concepts involved. Okay, so let me just close this one and now the results of the PV are captured and characteristic values are uploaded against each of the equipment. So for each of these pieces of equipment, let's say the first one, which is the equipment 109034747, which is a satellite telephone with no information on the function location. We know that the user status is EQSL, system status is available, there is no manufacturer serial number, but we do have a technical identified number. This is the authorization group, T00, code center, the one that we had filtered before, business area P18, this is the PID. Obviously, it's not an asset. We don't have information on the storage location. Obviously, if you don't have an inventory, there is no storage location involved. But we have information that, I guess, a week ago, on the 18th of February, we performed a verification, physical verification process, and there was no discrepancy found. So if we scroll to our right and we now perform 1 week after a physical verification process, we will be able to fill in the information which is mandatory, verification date, who verified, and whether there is a discrepancy. Okay, so we're going to do that now. So remember, let's say a week ago, or 6 days ago, on the 18th of February, we didn't find any discrepancy. But let's say that now, in the 6 days after, we're going to perform again a physical verification process, which we'll have to log in, fill in here information on the date. And it's important, the date. Why? Because it has to have a format, a particular format. And this is the format that I want you guys to use. It's the day dot month into digits dot and then the year. Okay, so the date format is important because otherwise the template will not capture that date and we will not be able to upload the file into the system again. Okay, so let me go back to the template. And today is 25th, if I'm not mistaken, or 26, I guess, 02/2020. And let's see that instead of Daniel Criado, you see Daniel Criado, myself, was the one who verified last time. So instead of myself, it's going to be, let's say, Brian. Remember that no discrepancy was found initially, but now Brian, he did actually his work very well. And he said, you know what, Daniel, even though that you tagged as no discrepancy found, yes, there is a huge discrepancy because there is a problem with the user location status. Here in discrepancy type, there is a drop-down list when you can select any of these 5 items and only one of these 5 items. 00 meaning there is no discrepancy, as I did 6 days ago. 01 is I didn't find it, so it's not found. 02, it's we have a problem with the user, or we have a problem with the location, or we have a problem with the status. Any of those 3. 03 will be we have a problem with the manufacturer serial number, or we have a problem with the barcode, or we may have a problem with the authorization group. Or last but not least, we have multiple master data discrepancies, meaning that we may have a problem with the location, and at the same time, we may have a problem with the authorization group. So if we have discrepancies covering more than one category, like 01, 02, then we'll have to go for multiple master data records. So let's say that as a discrepancy type, Brian found out that there was a problem with the user. Okay, so he selected 02 user location status. If we scroll to our right, you see we have a list of optional fields here. Changing user, change the location, and changing status. These are the ones related to my discrepancy. Then we have another set like manufacturer serial number, barcode, and authorization group, which are linked to the here with the 03. Okay, but I selected 02. So, and this one is free text, and obviously I can, if it is a problem for, as I said, with the user, I can here, Brian can put his extra information for the SD11 to properly enrich this piece of equipment accordingly. And he may put here the equipment belongs to Bill, for example, right? So we know that there is now a change in user. So he pointed out that exactly in the optional field. And remember, this is an optional field. If you do not type in anything in these green columns, nothing happens. But it's mandatory, it's compulsory that you fill in the verification date with the right format, who verified this piece of equipment, and which is the discrepancy type, if any. Okay. So let's move on to the second one. So let's do 2 or 3, and then I will show you how to upload the new this template into the system. So let's see the second piece of equipment. In this case, again, this is another type of telephone. Information on the telephone. This is coming from the equipment master record, the shell. It was verified again 6 days ago. No discrepancy found. But today, and you can copy and paste, we can copy the same date. Brian Barrachin again found out there was a problem. Instead of the user location status, he found out that the authorization group was wrong. Okay, so he is going to select now 03 manufacturer serial number barcode authorization group. So he is gonna the first three optional fields on change of user, change of location, and change in status does not apply or do not apply, but it applies the last one, which is change in authorization group, and he may put new authorization group 65, for example. So that's a comment that we will guide the SD11 to update accordingly the equipment master record for this particular telephone. Okay, again, this is just optional information that the physical verification planner will have to input while doing, and it's much better, right? Because instead of who verified and the discrepancy type, if you can just enrich a little bit the situation of each of those pieces of equipment, the better. So it will actually make the life of the SD11 much easier. And then obviously there is a place for comments as well at the end of the template. So it will be as easy as going one by one and identify whether there is a discrepancy type or not. Let's say that for whatever reason, we only found these 2 discrepancies. Okay, the rest are perfectly fine. So we said, okay, so it looks fine. We did verify these 2. The rest have no problem whatsoever, and I can even see here in the top right left corner, I have here a table which states the situation found in the physical verification process. So far, we have found no records with no discrepancy, 1 record with discrepancy 02, and another record with discrepancy 03. In total, 2 records. But this is a good practice. You have got to go through all the different records and put information to every single one, because otherwise you will not be able to generate the load file into the system. I hope this is clear, because this is important. We have to fill in information on the verification date, who verified, and which is the discrepancy type, if any, because if there is no discrepancy type, you can always select no discrepancy found, but you have to select no discrepancy found. Otherwise, you will not be able to generate. Well, we can do it now. Let's say that I only select these 2. Let's say I only input information on these 2. And I click on Generate Physical Verification Load File. You see, there is an error message which says mandatory characteristic verification date is missing for 1 or more equipment records. Please correct and try again. So at least the verification date I have to put to all of them. So I'm going to copy the same date.
And now that you're on the date, Daniel, I'm just going to jump in because Ivo was making a good comment as well. Can I just write the date any way I want, or is there a format of writing the date?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think I said it before, and it is in the presentation here. You see the date format here is two digits related to the date of the month, dot 2 digits identifying the month, and 4 digits, this is wrong, identifying the year.
Okay.
So 4 digits.
Perfect. Now, I think what he's focusing on, and actually it's a small detail that can change it all. If instead of a dot, I put a slash or a comma, will that make a difference?
I think so, but let's do it live and see. So you see that I put verification date into all different equipment master records, but in the last one, instead of this format, I'm going to put a slash. You see what happens? I try to move on to another place of the template, and as Ivo, it's saying there is a proper format that we have to be compliant with, because otherwise the file will not be generated. So I'm going to retry, and I'm going to use the format that the system accepts. I click on enter, and you'll see there is no error message whatsoever. So thank you, Ivo, for that, and Brian for highlighting this point. It's important. Let's say that what we did, it's input information, mandatory information, only 2 pieces of equipment, but the rest I only put the date. Let me try and generate the file. You see, mandatory characteristic verified by is missing for 1 or more equipment record. So obviously, I will have to input a name for each of these pieces of equipment. And obviously here, this is free text, and you can put here as many names as you find, or as many inspectors which are performing this physical verification. In this case, I just put Brian verifying everything because I did a awful work last week, and I just found only 2 discrepancies. So here, now that I inputted all the information related to verified by, I'm going to generate the file. The system is telling you, yes, but I need the discrepancy type, otherwise I cannot generate the file. So you have to identify one of these 5 elements, at least in order to generate the file. Okay, so let's say that the third one is not found yet, and from 1 week to another, almost 280 something, 80 plus pieces of equipment were not found. So let me just copy all the discrepancy type. Obviously, this is not realistic, but I want you to, if I do this, when I upload the file into the system, you'll see in a click of an eye the update into the whole list. So this is the results of our last verification, physical verification process is just, we found 2 discrepancies and the rest of the equipments were not found yet. Okay, let's try now to generate the file. You'll see that the rest of the optional fields are filled in automatically with not applicable. And automatically I see that the system is asking me whether I want to save this CSV file, this text file, into my own computer. Okay, so this is the physical verification, the 26th, and I'm going to put here underscore Brian, because he was the one who performed this last verification activity. I'm going to save it. And it was successfully saved. The template has been successfully saved as a text file. Obviously, if after we have saved, we want to change this template and then we want to generate another CSV file, we can do that, no problem whatsoever, as long as you identify which is the correct text file that you want to upload into the system. Okay, so important, guys. First of all, verification date, verified by, and discrepancy type, it's mandatory to all records found in the template. Second of all, verification date has a specific format, which is 2 characters, dot, 2 characters, 4 characters. Verified by, you can put any name, the person who is conducting the physical verification process for that particular piece of equipment. And obviously, we have to put a result of if there is a discrepancy type, or if not, we put not discrepancy found, but something has to be put there. For example, let me just remove these 3, for example. If I try to generate, again, this characteristic discrepancy type has to be filled in, okay? So the template is prompting you to upload anything that doesn't make sense into the system. So I'm going to stop here. I'm going to go back to Brian in case that is there any comment or question before I move on?
Yes, I believe there was a question about the date, the verification date, and the question was, can it be a different date, not just all performed on the same day? Of course, for some warehouses it would be impossible to perform verification in a single day. And then Ivo came back, and I think clarifying a bit what he was meaning with the date, and maybe I misinterpreted. Physical verification date was perhaps added as extra requirement, and format of the date is actually not date, so year ends without a dot. Okay, so if you try to run an analysis of IH08, you can't do it, as physical verification date does not correctly interpret the date. It's actually text field. Okay, I think it has definitely something to do with the fact of not adding a period, right? A dot after the year. So you wouldn't add 2020 and then dot. And also the fact that if not done correctly, ECC wouldn't return or wouldn't perform correctly the uploading of the new file, right? I think that's where the discrepancy would occur. So basically, if you add the date, as Daniel has just shown here, basically the month, day, or day, month, and then year, and just the dot before and after the month, you should be fine. And yes, it doesn't have to be all done in one day. It can be done in several. Basically, physical verification has to be done properly, and it doesn't necessarily have to be done in a day. Actually, the majority of cases, it will never be performed in a day.
Yeah, you're right. And just talking about dates, let me just put a date that actually is not corresponding to today, but let's say one day in the future. Let's see what the template says. So for example, let's say that this first piece of equipment, instead of the 26th, I'm going to put it the 28th of February of 2020. Well, apparently it goes. It's fine, no problem. The system is telling me, okay, it's the proper format. I'm following the proper format. Let me generate the physical verification load file. So yes, we have to bear in mind that if you actually are using a date in the future, you may generate a file that you may upload into the system. Okay, so the system is not preventing you to do so. So let's say that I'm putting here, instead of 2020, let's say 2022. Let's see what system says. Trying to generate the file. Again, I can generate the file. Let's see that down the road, when I try to upload into the system, what the system will say. The system will say the date is not properly included, and this is a date in the future. It will not accept that. But from the template point of view, the template can accept dates in the future. Just piece of
there you go. Yeah, I was gonna say the Excel allows you, but once you upload it to ACC is when we should see if it prevents you. It gives you an error, which it probably will, or surely will.
And remember, guys, that we are now working on the second sheet, which is PV template. This sheet has information on the list of equipment, the last result on the last physical verification activity taken, and then you will have several columns related to the new physical verification activity, which are mandatory on the dates, verified by, and discrepancy type. And once you go have gone through all the different list of equipments. You generate your CSV file, and we will upload that file into the system, which is the next step that I'm going to do. Okay, so if we don't have any more comments, I will move on, and I will go into the system. I think I was kicked out. So let me just track here. So I'm going to log in into the system again. So, okay, so that is now I'm going to use the second T code that it's mandatory to use in the PV process. First one was IH08. Now we're going to execute the transaction set PM underscore EQUI underscore CHAR, like set PM equipment charge. Okay, so this is the T code to upload the results of your physical verification into Umoja. I'm copying this T code. I'll click. And this is what we see. And before I finish, because we're about to finish with the whole process, I will go back to the presentation and will show you which are the different let's say aspects or situations that you may encounter while let's say troubleshooting, because those are, let's say, like troubleshooting information that we found out and we want to share with you while we upload information into the system. Okay, so first of all, description of what we see in the screen. Basically, that's an easy one in terms of transaction. We can execute this transaction in the foreground, meaning now live, or in the background, meaning that the system will do it in the background while you perform some other transactions in Umoja. Okay, that's usually advisable if you are going to execute a large, let's say you're going to upload a large number of pieces of equipment. We're talking about maybe 20,000, 17,000, but for the time being, and we are going to execute in the foreground because I think we are going to only to update 286 type of equipment. So execution mode foreground, and then I will have to look in file path. I will have to look up for my text file, the one that I generated with my Excel. File name. So you see, I click here in the match code, and there I will go to my directory, which is O. I think it was physical verification extracts. Let me open that up, and you'll see that there is a text file, text document generated today, and this is the name I put: physical verification 2602-2020 Brian. So that's the one I select. The system selects that one, and first we have to click on test run, because test run will be a tag. Once you activate that tag, the system will perform this, let's say, upload in a test mode. And if there is no problems, the system will tell you, OK, success. And then what we will do is we will deactivate this one and we will execute and we will do it for real. But first, it's always advisable to check the test run, and then we click on execute. Remember, foreground, we select the text file that we have generated in our template. We click on test run, we execute. You'll see the feedback that Umoja is giving us is test run successful. So it looks OK. So let me uncheck this test run and execute now for real. Let's see what happens. Obviously, if you are uploading more than, I don't know, 15,000 type of records, that's going to take more time than now. And you'll see now, even though that in the test run, the message was success in terms of feedback from the system, now we are encountering at least one item that has a problem, which is this piece of equipment And the message text actually is not giving us a lot of information, but it says class type 002 object type equi object. The change is forbidden. Okay. How to interpret this message text? Basically, there is one piece of equipment that it's not been uploaded, and there is a problem with that one. So instead of clicking on the equipment master record, because here, if I click on the equipment master record, I'm going to go back to the template and see what this equipment is about. So let me go back to the template and see that it's one. Let me just write it down. 1108 7515, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to see what happens with that piece of equipment. I think it's 1108 7515. This one. Okay, so it's a light vehicle, but you'll see in the description. Let me white this up. Disposal complete. Okay, even though that we verified, not found yet, there is a problem. Well, makes sense, right? Makes sense that the system will not upload any discrepancy related to a vehicle in this case, which has been already disposed and it's already out of the system. Okay, so at least from the template point of view, we see that disposal is done, but let's go to the equipment master record, right? Let's go back to the error message here. And if I click on the equipment number, I'll see the equipment master record. Remember yesterday's session with David. You'll see the description is light vehicle disposal complete, and you'll see status here, very important. First was available, then it changed the system status to DLFL, but eventually it's been inactivated. Inac means inactivated. So if I go to design, as we did yesterday with David, you'll see that the last system status is object deactivated, and the user status is 7 sale disposal method. So we may believe that this piece of equipment, which is actually a light vehicle, has been already sold by the mission and disposed. So this one will not be part of our template. So this piece of equipment we have to remove from our template, and then we'll have to upload again into the system. So as a conclusion, after we have done our let's say upload of list of equipments into the system, the error message is showing us that one piece of equipment cannot be uploaded. So the whole upload has been stopped. Nothing has been done. I hope it's clear. Over to Brian in case that we have any question or comment.
Okay.
Yes, somebody's speaking up, I think.
Yes. What about the run dates that were entered?
Okay, so very good question. I thought it was going to continue, but so the wrong dates, the one we added in the future, right? The system is telling us there's only one mistake, which is with this piece of equipment, but it's not indicating the dates in the future, right? That we added before.
Yes.
And exactly. So let's look into that. And then also, just so you know, Daniel, there was also a question about if all the tabs in this Excel need to be populated before we upload. And it's basically 2 of them, right? That mainly need to be fulfilled, the one with previous discrepancies and the one with the new ones. Okay, thanks. So let's look into that, the question now. And who is asking the question?
Carmen.
Okay, Carmen.
I see you.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thanks, Carmen. That was a good point because, this was not the case, right? The date was okay. It was the whole the 3 main mandatory fields were filled in properly. It's just that the system understands that cannot upload a piece of equipment that is being verified, but it's already with a disposal complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that record. Let me select all. Oh, no, cannot. Okay. Let me see. Let me go back and select. This one was again 108 75 15. It's number 33. Okay. So let me select all. Basically, I'm identifying this one, which is this one, 33 row. This is my lead vehicle. Let me delete this one, which is the one that the system told me in the uploading the results that has a problem. So let me generate and check the as Carmen mentioned, let me check the dates as well, in case that there is something that I did wrong. Makes okay. I know that's the previous.
I have a
Okay.
small query.
So verification dates. Let me change this verification date to 2020 so we don't encounter problem after all. So
Yes,
let me generate.
Daniel,
Yes, Carmen?
you also have more equipment inactive when you scroll down on the left. Disposal completed. Why only gave you one message if you have more records that the disposal was completed?
Yes, but that's at the description, right? It was a maybe the description is a free text.
In the status, say inactive. System status. You see 3 there inactive.
Available inactive.
Oh, I only see 3.
Exactly. Well, let's have a look now. Let's see what the system tells us.
Sorry to cut you. Can I ask you a question?
Can we? Let me just mute some other colleagues.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yes. Sorry, I was not hearing you well. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you. So, is it possible that we can exclude the user status from the beginning as an inactive item?
Sorry, I'm afraid we cannot hear you very well. For the place that Brian is putting and myself, I cannot. Can you try it again? Otherwise, you can put that question in the chat and we can follow up.
All right. No, but okay. So let me try again. Can you hear me?
Yes, but it's difficult to understand. Sorry, it's a problem with the audio.
Okay, fine. So I'll put it in the test.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. It sounds like you're underwater from our side. Like that's how bad it sounds. Just write it in the chat, and we'll get to it in a second. And we're going to look into this issue with the inactive status. Again, we also have to make a reminder of we're using training environment. Okay, we're not in production. There may be some issues, but we have to look into why those pieces of equipment are not, the system's not giving us an error. Is it because it's inactive? Is it because of something else in the status?
And as well, remember that in the initial requirements in the physical verification plan, the idea is once you extract the initial list of equipment and you print it or you put it in Excel, you have to filter out the ones inactive and the ones already disposed. So actually the best practice will be, it's from the, let's say, template point of view to filter them out here. And then once you're making sure that the equipments verified, physically verified, are not, let's say, compliant with the status that you require, which is not being in transit, not being inactivated, then the rest will be uploaded into the system. Okay, but nevertheless, what I did is I deleted the record that was giving problems when we uploaded into the system. I removed that one, and I'm going to generate the file again. And the idea is to upload into the system a second time. So I'm gonna go the same, gonna put the same text, but then 2. So that's the file I'm saving. And then I'm gonna go back to the system. I'm gonna execute the same T code. You remember set PM char, that's the T code that we are using right now. I'm going to select the file with the number 2, the one I have just created. Okay, first a test run, execute. You see, remember what we did before? We put a verification date greater than the current date at some point. So that's happening in 109.03.747. This is what I meant on the very first day, that we usually do not do the demos in the happy flow. So we want to encounter the same mistakes, excuse me, the same problems that you may encounter while doing the activity. So let me go back into the template and look up for that particular piece of equipment, 109.03.747. It's number 12. 8. You see, that's let's see, it says that's the last, excuse me, the last. This is the one I put with the 28th of February. Okay, so the system, as do you remember what Brian said before, even though that the template may accept dates greater than today's date, at the uploading phase in Umoja, the system will prevent you to do so. Okay, so let me change, instead of 28th, let me put 24th, for example. And let me select all. I'm going to generate load file. Hopefully this will be the last version, which is version number 3. Save. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back finally to the same T code. I'm going to select the last version of the physical verification, execute, test run successful. I'm going to remove the test run, execute. And let's see which are the results of this uploading the physical verification results. You see that everything now is green. So all this equipment master record has been changed successfully all the way up to the button. Okay, so that's good news. And but what we want to do now is we want to go back to IH08 and with the extension of information with the columns with the discrepancy, and see whether those columns have been updated accordingly, right? So we're going to go back to IH08. So I'm going to go to IH08. Remember, class type was 02, class set VV, equipment category was M, maintenance plant was CD10. My cost center, because remember that we are targeting only equipment from this cost center, 10159. And the layout is the one with the previous discrepancy. Okay, we can use this one or any other. That's no problem. Let me execute and go to settings, show height classification. There we'll have these extra columns with the results of the last physical verification activity. So let's scroll to our right, and you'll see that instead of Daniel Criado, which was the first inspector, now is Brian Barrachina. The same ones that are in our template, you see, Brian Barrachina. You remember the first record, it's 24th of February. First record, 24th of February, the rest are 26. Rest are 26. And only the first two were found with some sort of discrepancy. You see, user number 002 on 03. The rest were not found. And the report, it's actually getting all that information from the template. Let me scroll all the way up, and you can see even the comments that I put in change of user. Equipment belongs to Cyril. Here we go. And even if I scroll to my right, I can see the new authorization group T65 that I put here in my template. So you see, as a conclusion, we didn't want to do a happy flow, you know, like showing you how to do the list of master records and do upload without a problem. We told you what you may encounter as you go by, and that's why at the last part of the presentation, you'll see a little bit of information on troubleshooting while uploading the template into Moja. So you'll see there that you may have problems when there are blank values in the verification date, who verified, and discrepancy type here. Then even though that test run may turn out to be successful, you might find when you run without the test run, you might find some issues. Important here, only with issues in one piece of equipment, like this one, the upload will not be completed for all records. And let me put this in yellow. That's important, okay? So only with problems in one single record, that will stop the system to accept any upload in any piece of equipment in the scope of the physical verification process. Okay, and once you fix that problem, then the rest of the records will be uploaded into the system successfully, as we did after that. And then the last part of the presentation, which will be to update the equipment master record. Now is the SD11, the equipment local master data maintainer, based on the results coming from the physical verification. He or she will have to take action in all those pieces of equipment and understand where they are located, why they were not found, why the authorization group was wrong, why the user was wrong, and even that will be a good time to enrich the equipment master record. So we'll have more information, more realistic information for the next physical verification cycle. And at the end of the presentation, you'll see here the reference materials that we want to show with you, to you. These are T codes that might be useful. Obviously, today we went through I808 and the uploading of the physical verification results, but we have the asset balance report over here. If you want to just do your analysis on the assets, if you have a warehouse, you can use LX02 in order to understand where those pieces of equipment are located from the warehouse point of view, which is most of you are not the cases. And a good one is the business partner. This one will tell you which piece of equipment belongs to a particular business partner. And you can run a report with all the, let's say, pieces of equipment that, for example, Brian or myself, we are accountable for. So that will actually will facilitate a little bit the physical verification process and eventually how to resolve discrepancies down the road. Last but not least, the job aids. You have here a link to the physical verification job aid, a link to the physical verification Excel template. Important, a link to the job aid on how to do a mass change to a large number of equipments. That was not subject of this induction training, but I do recommend you to go through it. It's quite interesting. And then this equipment must change has a template, an Excel that works in a different manner from the other one, but we'll be able, and with this one, I'm answering to one of the questions from yesterday, you can massively change who is accountable, responsible for more than 100 or 200 pieces of equipment. With this equipment must change. You can massively change equipment status, user status, and some other items in the equipment master record. So I hope the session went well. Sorry for this sharing screen, and I thank you, Brian, for giving me the solution. Now it's much easier to find and go from one screen to another. This screen that you see now, it's the list of the BI reports subject that are related to the property management KPIs framework. Tomorrow we will go through the ones related to physical accountability. Okay, so but at least you have screenshots with 40 plus type of reports that are now in production in BI for property management. So tomorrow we'll go through the different reports for physical verification, how to launch the reports, who has access to the reports, how you can modify, how you can do an analysis on your KPIs, specifically for physical verification for equipments, and then for fixed assets as well. So without further ado, I'll give the floor to Brian and see whether we have any final comments or questions. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. We do. Thanks, Mark, for reiterating this. I just see something from Mark in the chat. You mentioned this before the training. The link to the Excel template for physical verification seems not to be working now. Again, I guess it has just been checked by by one of our attendees, and it was happening before we started the training. Luckily, we had saved it before on previous days, but it is something that we definitely have to look into. The link doesn't seem to be showing up all the time, because it is true that at some point it does show up, but it's not there all the time, Mark. But that is the correct link. The only thing is I'm not sure why it's not showing up all the time. And I think it actually happened to Daniel before live during the training. You clicked on it and it wasn't showing. So we'll look into that one, but thanks for reference. But that is the correct link. Okay, it's right there in the service delivery section of the job aids. You should just click on that, and once you click on the link, it should already generate an Excel template, or take you to a page where you have another link to generate the Excel template, and in this case it just shows blank.
That's a good point, because it did happen to Brian and myself. Like, whoa, where that link is, it was removed somehow. Then we checked with David this morning, and it worked well. And now, thank you, Mark, you are pointing out that it's not there. So that's something that we can highlight with our colleagues in New York, SMEs. But nevertheless, I can share with you the last version of the template. I can just, it's an Excel file, so I can share with you right after this session, along with the rest of the documentation and job aids as well. Thank you, Mark, for that. Over to you, Brian, in case that we have any more comments.
Nothing more, unless we've missed anything, we haven't answered some of your questions, or maybe something that has been confusing at some point, because I know we were going back and forth. So something that I think we have to state is, when you were uploading the Excel, once you had the final discrepancies and you uploaded the new Excel, the system, and just to make sure 100%, will return errors one by one, correct? It won't show you a list of 10 errors in the Excel, correct? When you upload it, it'll show you one error. You'll fix that error, and if there's another one, it'll tell you now there's another one, right? And you'll have to go back into that Excel and change it and upload again, and maybe there is another one, correct? So this will happen. It has happened to us live. First with the date, it seemed like the date wasn't an issue, but then the date was an issue, right? So that's something to keep in mind as well. So even though the system returns one error, you have more than that, right? It's true that I don't know how many times you're going to be uploading this Excel with over 100 discrepancies. The norm is that there shouldn't be many, but maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. It depends on the mission, the size of your warehouse, and what's going on wherever you are.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and thank you for underlining that fact. As we experienced live, we had a problem with the dates. we only have one problem in one, let's say, error. Then we had a problem with the disposal. It was the equipment was inactivated or deactivated as well. So it's one by one. That's why it's important that you work, like let's say, in a robust way within your template. So that prevents you to go back and forward one after the other with different errors that the system may encounter while you upload results into the system. So I thank you. If we don't have any more questions or comments, we already reached 2 hours. Thank you, Brian. I really thank you for stepping in, because David was supposed to be here, but he had to move urgently to another task. So thank you for chipping in and for sharing your knowledge with us. I do appreciate that you guys are so active, as Brian pointed out before. The more questions we have, the more enriched is our chat. And once we download and we go through the chat after these 5 days, I think that we're going to have a critical mass of information that will be important for us as a trainers and for you as a student to go through. So without further ado, I will finish the session today, and rest assured that I will share with you today's session through Teams, and then through Unite as well. I will share this MP4, and right after this session, I will share the presentation and the link to the job page and the template itself, that now that we found out that is not in the Umoja page, at least for this minute. Okay, so thanks for your time, for your interest and your cooperation. We'll see you tomorrow.